Hello, welcome to Grid Live Pre-Race. IndyCar is back at Gateway to start the final stretch of 2024. The NASCAR Cup Series at Michigan looking to put Richmond behind them. Plus, the latest on Martin versus Pecco Bagnaia for the MotoGP World Championship, and the latest from the Repco Supercars Series over in Australia, the Tasmania SuperSprint. I'm Joe San Diego. Thank you so much for tuning in. And of course, a big thank you to our Patreon investors, Colin Michelle, Mark, Robin, David, and Matthew. You too can invest in the Grid Network. Link in the video description. You could also do a one-time investment through Buy Me a Coffee or YouTube Super Chat. If we see it on the air, we'll thank you. And if we miss it, we'll thank you the next time we go on the air. Let's get started with IndyCar. The NTT INDYCAR Series back at Gateway Worldwide Technology Raceway. And one of the big things, the Bommarito 500 later tonight. Scott McLaughlin is leading the field to the green. However, plenty of penalties were handed out, including one big penalty up towards the front. Felix Rosenqvist had qualified on the second row. Well, he's going to be starting 11th after a 9th-place grid penalty. This promotes his teammate, David Malukas, to second place on the outside of the front row. So, one of the big things, David Malukas, how big of an opportunity is this for him to potentially claim the win? Without a doubt, compared to where he was at the start of this season, where we knew he was going to be joining Arrow McLaren, then he went mountain bike and injured himself before he even got to race for McLaren, lost his ride. A lot of people were wondering, where is he going to end up? Will he end up somewhere? This all worked out. Unfortunately, Tom Blomqvist out of a ride. But for David Malukas, I have to say he has to be one of the sentimental favorites, if not the sentimental favorite for this weekend. How big would this be for him to get a win, put everything that had transpired this year behind him, and now knowing he's going to AJ Floyd Racing, which has the alliance with Team Penske, he has to be feeling really good. And I also got to say this as well, too. With Meyer Shank Racing, if they could get a win, they have been looking really good this year, just coming up a little bit short. If David Malukas delivers this win, I think a lot of folks are going to be saying what you did with Tom Blomqvist was needed to be done. It would be very unfortunate because a lot of folks love Tom Blomqvist in the vehicle. Just one of those unfortunate breaks. When it comes to the odds, though, as you can see, David Malukas plus 550. Scott McLaughlin, the easy favorite. Of course, he's going to be on the pole. But let's talk about Will Power at plus 700. He is starting 4th behind Josef Newgarden, who is 3rd. Alex Palou, 16th starting position after the grid penalties. And Scott Dixon, 19th. Colton Herta, 25th. He made a mistake in qualifying, backed the car into the wall. 26th, 27th, did not set a time. Dale Coyne Racing just struggling this weekend. So for Will Power to be up towards the front while his championship contenders are all 16th or worse, great opportunity for him to score maximum points. I do not anticipate Team Penske giving team orders to allow Will Power ahead of Newgarden and Scott McLaughlin. But if he has a car that's faster or even just finishes 3rd behind those two, I would even say a 4th place finish would be good if he, for some reason, has David Malukas or another vehicle up there. That's a great start to the weekend. When you look at Alex Palou, a lot of people are wondering, how will he fare with all these ovals towards the end? We only have one road course left. That's next weekend at Portland, where we're going to be. Alex Palou really has to show he could continue finishing well in the ovals. This is going to be one of those big tests. Of course, you got Milwaukee Mile and then Nashville after Portland. For Will Power, he has to feel really good, especially after what happened at Iowa Speedway. Colton Herta, a little bit disappointed. I thought after Toronto, he's going to come back stronger, and then we see this in qualifying where he spins, puts the car in the wall, starting 25th. No doubt he could get himself in the top 20. I think he could put himself in a good spot to even claim a top 10 spot. But he's going to have to work extra hard for it compared to the drivers up towards the front. That is the big disadvantage he put himself in, put the team in, and really just makes it where people again are talking about Colton Herta done what Colton Herta has done in the past. He's either really good or he's putting it in the wall, street courses, road courses, now the oval. Just not a good deal for him. Of course, the NTT INDYCAR Series Gateway. Earlier this week, Jackson Lambros did interview Alexander Rossi, so be sure to check out Grid Network right here on YouTube. Subscribe, hit the bell icon, and you can find that video of Jackson's interview with Alexander Rossi. The NASCAR Cup Series. They're at Brooklyn, Michigan for the FireKeeper 400 at Michigan International Speedway. This race weekend looks like it's going to be threatened by rain, unfortunately. We got rain in the forecast for today, rain in the forecast for tomorrow. Of course, the backup plan, if for some reason NASCAR cannot get the race completed and they have to race Monday, Ben and Brandon, Grid Encore, they're going to be recapping it. Wrap up will still be on the air. IndyCar, MotoGP, Supercars. But for the Cup Series, it's going to be really hard if they could get the full race in. Potentially, they could get it, but not the full distance. They have to get past the halfway point. And one of the big things, Austin Dillon. Now, we've heard plenty of people talking about what he did at Richmond. We heard plenty of people talking about what kind of penalty he should get. We've heard the responses after the penalties were handed down, people sharing their opinions. Question for everyone out there. Do you believe Austin Dillon is under more pressure this weekend compared to if he had kept the win and the playoff spot? I'll tell you this, Austin Dillon, I think, is under tremendous amount of pressure, and not just him, but the Richard Childress team is under a lot of pressure as well, because they want to prove last week's performance was not a fluke. We know this team has been struggling throughout 2024. That's why he entered Richmond 32nd in the points. All of a sudden, they come to Richmond and they're very fast. Fast in practice, fast in qualifying, and towards the race, as everyone has said, he would have won that race on merit had we not had that last caution, which set up overtime. Austin Dillon does not want to come to Michigan, have all the people trying to ask him questions about his thoughts on the penalty, not being in the playoff, and then lay an egg in practice and qualifying. In the race, 20th or worse. He does not want that because he knows people are going to be talking about, see, this is more evidence. Austin Dillon does not belong in the playoffs. He does not want to hear that. Richard Childress Racing Team, they don't want to hear that narrative going forward. Yes, they got an appeal process going on. So with the appeal going on, if he's continuing to run poorly, people are just going to be asking, why are we allowing this? Why are we allowing a team struggling so much to get in the playoffs based on an appeal? It really sheds new light on the playoff system. Should there be a top 30 rule again? If we have a top 30 rule, how does that look like still going forward with this new format of elimination playoff racing? There's a lot on Austin Dillon to prove. The best thing he could do, have a fast car, finish in the top 10, and in my opinion, just have a quiet day at the races. If for some reason he finds himself where he could use the bumper to get the win, knowing there's that appeal coming, I think he's going to drive a little bit more conservatively. He does not want to get the additional tension. So overall, Austin Dillon wanted a quiet but good, strong weekend. That team, he, as a driver, under immense pressure this weekend to show what happened last weekend was not a fluke. They could come out, they could start winning and proving they truly belong in the playoffs if they could get there. Daytona's an opportunity for a win, and don't count out Darlington, the Lady in Black, for that number 3 team. Here is the point standings for the playoffs entering this race weekend. Of course, Austin Dillon, as I mentioned, not in there, but one of the big things, Ross Chastain, Chris Buescher, tied at 0 points at the cutoff line. Be sure to follow what those two are doing. I got to give the leg up to Chris Buescher. Fords have been really good here. I think Fords are looking at a good, solid day. Bubba Wallace, he has to feel pretty good too. The Toyotas have been fast here. But there's one problem with the Toyotas lately. Their engines, their reliability. We have seen issues for Christopher Bell, Denny Hamlin, Ty Gibbs, and then last week at Richmond, Martin Truex Jr., just the latest. I have to say, I believe Toyota have an engine reliability problem, and this is something that they have to be looking at, scrambling, because we are 3 races away from the playoffs. If they don't have this situation figured out, they're going to be in trouble in the playoffs, because here's the thing. You have Martin Truex Jr., Ty Gibbs, they're winless. If they have one race, especially in that first round, that first race or second race, or even the third race, and they go out first with an engine issue, they're very likely going to be below that cut line. I think Denny Hamlin's going to be pretty safe with his wins, his playoff wins, but that's only good enough for the first round. The second round potentially depend on what happens at Talladega. But once you get to the round of 8 and then the championship, you do not want the reliability issues to pop up. You really got to be 100% because you know Fords, they're going to do everything they can. They have not had reliability issues with their engines. Chevrolets, the same as well. The Toyota teams, TRD, they have to be working overtime, in my opinion, trying to figure out what's going on. Why do we have so many engine failures as of late? Because you do not want this in the playoffs. And taking a look at the odds, Denny Hamlin, he is the favorite, but I got to ask you, do you think he's really the favorite concerning the engine issues? Michigan Speedway, 2 miles, very fast track. So it can't be a bit hard on the engines. We also know with this track, depending on how the cautions work out, it could be a fuel mileage race too. Don't count out Denny Hamlin, Kyle Larson, Ryan Blaney. I think those are 3 easy favorites. And Martin Truex Jr., I don't know. He just seems to be one of those drivers. I just do not think he's going to get a win. He could prove me wrong, go out there, dominate, which he typically does. He'll dominate a race and then get to win. But overall, I think William Byron has to be a sleeper everyone got to be looking at. He has been very quiet as of late. He'll love to get him out here, have a fast car. I think him, Rudy Fugle, can put something together, be up towards the front, stay out of trouble. They could potentially get the win. And of course, Bubba Wallace, as you see it, plus 2,000. He needs to get a win. He does not want to enter Daytona, Darlington, fighting for a playoff spot. He went through that last year at Daytona. He does not want to do that 2 years in a row. He'll love to silence the doubters and prove he can win in the NASCAR Cup Series. And don't count out, in my opinion, 2 Stewart-Haas racing drivers, Noah Gragson and Josh Berry. I could see one of those two having a good day, climbing up steadily in the top 10, having good races. I think those two could potentially put themselves in an upset win situation, especially if the strategy works out and it just becomes a fuel mileage race. If this becomes a fuel mileage race, could be pretty much anybody's win going forward at Michigan. And of course, we'll recap the Michigan race either tomorrow on Grid Wrap Up right here on YouTube or Grid Encore if the race is postponed to Monday. Now, MotoGP, Pecco Bagnaia reclaimed the points lead, but by a margin of 0 points. He is tied. He holds the tiebreaker over Jorge Martin, who finished second in the sprint race today behind Pecco Bagnaia. What a race. We saw Martin on the pole. Pecco Bagnaia had to come out, get around him, take the win. So now those two entering the Austrian Grand Prix tied on points. Martin again will be leading the field. Pecco Bagnaia has to feel pretty good, but the big thing, Pecco Bagnaia does not want to have a mistake again like last race weekend where he cost himself the points lead. This championship is far from over in MotoGP. Then the Repco Supercar Series, Nick Percat, a surprise winner. He won the first race of the Tasmania SuperSprint 55 laps. Chaz Monster was closing in, but just unable to get the job done. And Brock Feeney, That was your podium finishers. Will Brown, the points leader, he maintains the points lead, but he finished 7th after starting deep in the field when he was on his qualifying lap and a red flag came out. That essentially ruined his day. So a lot going on when it comes to Supercar Series, MotoGP this weekend. We'll recap both of those on the pick a winner. Overall, we got several races to talk about. A couple races have taken place already. Matthew Bro got the sprint race winner correct. So far, that's been the only correct pick this weekend. So, here we go. NTT INDYCAR Series at Worldwide Technology Raceway, the Bommarito 500. I'm going to go with the upset winner. I'm going to go with David Malukas getting it done. He knows how to get it done here. He's been one of his best tracks. I think he's one of those drivers that he's not going to put pressure on himself. He's not going to make a mistake. He's going to go out there, get the win. David Malukas for the Bommarito 500. Tasmania Supercar Series Race 2. I have to say, I think I'm going to go with Brock Feeney. I think Will Brown is not exactly going to be the fastest this weekend. Brock Feeney wants to close in on the championship. Brock Feeney is going to be my winner for the Supercar Series race. MotoGP, the Austrian Grand Prix. This race I am so excited about. I think we're going to see a lot of hard racing. When it comes down to it though, Pecco Bagnaia, I think he has the upper hand on this. I think he's going to come down, win, make it a weekend sweep. Pecco Bagnaia, the weekend sweep at Austria. And the NASCAR Cup Series. They're going to be at Michigan Speedway, the FireKeepers Casino 400. This race, I've been really debating on who's going to win. And at the end of the day, my choice for this race is going to be the number 23, Bubba Wallace. He's been fast at these ovals, at teams fast. I think the engine grimace was not going to hit him, and he could get the job done. Put himself in the playoffs with a win, take the stress off as they enter Daytona and Arlington. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens this race weekend. And of course, in the chat room, catching up in the chat room, a couple of pick a winner picks as well too. Adam goes with Scott McLaughlin, Denny Hamlin, Pecco Bagnaia, Supercar Series, Percat, and also Scott Bloomquist, who tragically passed away this weekend, sending our thoughts and condolences to his family. We want to thank everyone for tuning in to Grid Live Pre-Race. Thank you to our Patreon investors, everyone that subscribed to us. Hit the bell icon so you don't miss Sunday's wrap-up show, and of course, Monday's encore show right here on the Grid Network. A lot of racing this weekend. Very excited to have racing back. And then, of course, Wednesday, Grid Tonight. Kobe, Josh, Matthew with the latest news, the women in motorsports, and we'll do this all over again. But a special race weekend next weekend. Portland International Raceway. Myself, Jackson Lambros, we're going to be at the racetrack with on-track coverage. So the big weekend for the Grand Prix of Portland, sponsored by BitNile.com. Don't miss that out. We'll be posting more videos throughout the week. Jackson's video of his interview with Alexander Rossi is online. Be sure to check out that video. And don't miss any of our coverage from Portland International Raceway. Thank you for tuning in to Grid Live Pre-Race. I'm Joe San Diego. See you next time and enjoy the races.